What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out and supporting this episode of Raised a Geek. This week, we continue the cinematic journey that is Sonic 2 as we prep for Sonic 3 and highlight some of our favorite announcements from the 2024 Game Awards. This week, I'm here with my buddy Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up tonight, my friend? Everything is all right. Can't complain too much.
Love it.
Yeah, man, just hanging out, ready to talk some gaming stuff with my friend, one of our first loves, something that has always brought us together. Video game.
Yeah. Stories upon stories of playing video games in each other's rooms constantly.
Fighting games like to play together, but then also like, so, you know, 2-player games like Double Dragon and shit. I think a new Double Dragon was announced at the Game Awards.
I think there was.
So stuff like that, but then also just like fucking single player games where we would watch each other do things. Like
pass the controller.
Help me get through this. Like, here, I'll pass to you, you pass to me, and there's no saving. We got to beat this tonight if we're going to beat it.
Yeah.
And then even when saving came along later, like with Sony PlayStation, I still remember playing like Kingdom Hearts in your house.
Yeah.
Like, that's a single player campaign game. Why am I playing that and you're watching me?
I don't know. Just
where
like,
are you
where are you? I remember I think you beat Metal Gear Solid at my house.
Probably did.
Like, you brought your memory card over and you were like, hey, I'm at the end boss.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And and you beat the game and we watched the ending together. And
just bringing memory cards to each other's houses is funny. That little fucking
that was sick, man. That was like legendary. It was like, I could bring, here's all my saves. We used to play SmackDown for like 8 hours when we get off work.
Yeah.
We would just sit at our buddy's house all night doing like a multiplayer campaign in the original WWF SmackDown.
Career mode or whatever, yeah.
But we had to have that memory card. Like, who has the save? What memory card's it on?
Whose are we using?
Whose are we using? Who has the save? And we had to figure that stuff that was sick because you could bring all of them instead. You didn't have to bring the game. You just had to bring the memory card.
That's all you had to do. Times were much simpler back then.
But when we were talking about, we were just joking about this not too long ago. But like, I remember when the original Tomb Raider came out.
Mm-hmm.
We literally played that entire game in 1996 on the phone. You had it on Sega Saturn. I had it on PC.
And we did have it on PC.
Yeah, because I didn't have a system yet, so I couldn't play it. I didn't have a PlayStation yet. It was like leading into that Christmas where it was like, which system? Everyone was getting a system in 96. It was either the 64, the Saturn, or the PlayStation. Who's getting what?
96 was a crazy year for platforms.
Like, wild.
Yeah, it was a crazy year.
But I remember we sat there on the phone. We weren't talking.
No.
We were just on the phone together playing Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, hey, where are you at? Oh, I just passed this. Okay, cool. Or we'd hear like, oh, shit. You know, like, man. And we hear frustration. What happened? Oh, I fell down this pit. Oh, I just did that. Or, oh, my God, I'm right there now. How did you do it?
We'd just be listening to each other breathe for 15 minutes until someone said something.
Yeah.
And like, I think back then, like, obviously it was landlines. So we're not only tying up our entire home's phone to talk to each other for 2 hours while we play Tomb Raider, but I don't remember speakerphone being a thing yet.
No, we were
like, did we just have our phone up on our ears?
It's part of the reason why we have neck and back pains as adults, because we stayed crooked like that with the cell phone.
We just had our phone cradled in our ear as we're fucking playing Tomb Raider together.
How many times we're playing, all of a sudden you just hear someone pick up the phone.
Get off the damn phone. I gotta
Nobody
call you
knows we're on the phone because we're not saying anything. We just pick up the phone, don't hear anything, and start dialing.
It's so weird, man.
So yeah, gaming was wild in the 90s, in the early days. And
early aughts.
But Game Awards 2024 was here, and you know, I don't really like the Game Awards. I like the announcements. I can't sit there and watch the show. I don't necessarily care about the awards. I do care about the announcements, and this year they seem to go above and beyond with these announcements, even if you don't care about a lot of things, because, I mean, they opened up the Game Awards this year with The Witcher 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think, Game Awards, I don't even know what makes them, like, what gives this group the credentials to say what's the best game. Like, who are you? Like, what gives, I know the host, his name's Jeff something, but it's like, what group are you that you have final dominion over what the best game in the world is, and all of a sudden, like, I should care what you have to say or what you guys are.
It's just like the movies, it's like,
It's
yeah,
the
the Oscars
Oscars.
are the
Yeah.
Oscars, but there's still how many people still give away awards
Right.
for best movie? I mean, they're already crowning best movie based
Right.
on this credential or this credential. So, I
Right.
mean, you could take it or leave it for what it is, but yeah, I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
I don't pay too much mind into the actual awards, but I'm with you. Like the announcements are cool. The new trailers are cool. I think video game studios and companies are treating this now like it's like a new E3 kind of thing, or you know, comic book stuff does it at comic convention in San Diego. Like this is when they all come together, and the world is watching this industry right now. So this is when we are gonna premiere some things. Like
Yeah.
we've had a bunch of them in the past, and this year was no different. So yeah, Witcher 4 starting off the show. That's a big deal. That is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I never played Witcher 3. I
You
played the
didn't?
begin Nope. I played the
Okay.
beginning a couple times and then never got into it. Um,
See,
so
me either. So, but I assumed you did. I
no, I've bought it, like I buy everything, but I did not, I haven't played too far into it. I have read a couple of the books. I watched the first season of the TV show. I mean, I'm familiar with the world, especially probably more from reading a few of the books compared to anything else. Always, I mean, Witcher 3, I always thought about it, especially when they just dropped a PS5 version not too long ago. I was like, maybe I need to throw this disc in and jump back into it, but haven't done it yet. But which that was a 6-minute cinematic trailer that was pretty captivating. Like I was kind of caught up in it.
no, yeah. This goes back to our thing of cinematic trailers versus
Mhm.
gameplay trailers. Is yes, it looks cool, but anybody can make a cinematic trailer look cool.
Well,
Like
yeah,
it's really going to boil down to what the game itself looks like. But with all the advancements and everything, and that being a well-loved game, I think Witcher 3 is a Game of the Year winner from a
I'm
few.
sure. It's still talked about as being one of the greatest games like
Yeah,
ever, and I mean to some people that's all they play is just, you got people who play Call of Duty, you got people who only play Madden, there are people out there who only play Witcher 3 or Skyrim just on
right.
repeat. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's it the but the cinematic was cool. It's a cool thing for, like, in the vein of fantasy, sword play. Like, if you're a fan of stuff like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or anything like that, it's like kinda that kinda world for those who don't know the Witcher world. So, I mean, it looks cool, it looks fun. Like, you're a badass with a sword fighting creatures in, like, a
yeah.
medieval setting, so what's not to like?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing that they kind of set up with this without really giving away gameplay because they probably don't have any gameplay ready to be shown because I don't think they've been working on this for very long. But one of the cool things was that they actually said, this is basically the start of a new trilogy. This
Mm.
is Cersei is the or something like that is
Siri
the
or
main
Cersei,
character, huh?
yeah. Siri or Cersei or
Ciri,
something,
yeah,
yeah.
Cersei. Once again, I think I got Game of Thrones on the mind now, but series like this is she's the new protagonist. It's not Geralt, it's her, and we're gonna run with a whole new story. So just kind of setting it up so if you haven't played, like we haven't played Witcher 3, we could technically feel comfortable at now to be like, maybe I should be hyped for this game.
Yeah, introducing a jumping on point in a franchise is important from time to time. You don't only want the people who love this franchise to play, you want new players to get into your games who don't feel like they have to go back and play Witcher 1, 2, 3, uh, in order to enjoy this game. So, yeah, yeah, that's important, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So, super hell of a way to start it off. And then they 1-2 punched it because literally right after they got done showing The Witcher 4, Jeff shows up on screen and is like, hey, yeah, we got this too. And he dropped a trailer for Elden Ring Night Ring, which is basically
Mm.
a new standalone Elden Ring multiplayer
Co-op.
roguelike co-op multiplayer. Like I was listening to think people talk about this game, I was trying to figure out what the hell it even is. I still don't know what it is, but it still looked pretty cool. And for someone who wants to play Elden Ring, um, and wants to get into all those like Souls games and all of that stuff, it looked pretty cool. And I just wasn't I could still, even though I've never really played any of those games, I still felt hype for that. Like I was still like, "Wait, you just did the expansion this year and you're already announcing another one and have a 2025 date on it? Like what are we
Mhm.
doing here?"
Yeah, Elden Ring has become its own thing, like its
Mhm.
own community. It like spins off of Souls type games, but it's Elden Ring now is like a recognizable name, almost like a household name at this point. Uh, so this game being announced is kind of like stealthily too, and I felt like no one really knew there was going to be this. Like there was no early leaks or anything about there being a Elden Ring announcement, so that was cool to see like the surprise of it. And yeah, Elden Ring is a idea that to me and you that seems fun. And it's like
Mhm.
at some point in our gaming adventures, maybe we'll get into this and commit to actually putting the time into being Elden Ring players. We haven't done it to this point. We both have the Elden Ring games. You put a little more time into it than me. But the one thing that kind of scares me a little bit about this is the that it keeps being attached to like roguelike. And that to me is like, I don't know, man. Like I'm not a big roguelike guy. I've tried like even with the God of War DLC that
Mhm.
came out last year and a God of War DLC. How could I not like this? And I'm playing through it. I'm like, I don't like the way this is formatted and set up, and like just keep doing the same things over and over and over and over. And that's the point of these kind
Yeah.
of games. And it's like, ooh, I don't know about that. I'll have to like, I'm gonna be very tentative in my expectations for that.
Yeah, there are a few that work for me. I've done a couple that I can get into for a little bit, but it's still not very long. The only thing that has me intrigued about this one a little bit more is that it's multiplayer. So the fact that
Sure.
like you and I could jump into this thing and
Mhm.
figure it out and give us something to do, but not be like, if we jump in Elden Ring co-op, we're looking at like, a 60 hour, 70, 80, 100 hour like quest through this
Yeah.
thing where if we're playing rounds of Night Rain, then we're getting that taste without
Mhm. That huge
needing to
commitment.
with not a long commitment. We could sit down for a couple sessions and have fun and then put it
Bounce.
down.
All right.
So I
Yeah.
feel like it might almost be I can almost see it being like the best case scenario for us,
Right. Right.
like people who don't play those games all the time but are really interested in them, playing like almost small bite-sized rounds
Yeah.
might be more appealing, but once again, I have no idea. So, um, I was just kind of more shocked and buying into the hype of like, I can't believe they're announcing this.
No, I agree. I agree.
Um
The announcement itself was the craziest part.
Now, one of the other crazy ones to me, which I know I think you watched the trailer before, was the Project Robot, which was from the creator of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian, which I enjoyed a lot of those games, those being those almost like art games. They always come up as the games of not Last Guardian, but Ico and Shadow of the Colossus come up as being like games that represent art.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that trailer looked kind of cool, climbing those mechs, and it had a cool style to it, and it kind of perked me up a little bit.
No, what was cool about it was how vague it was,
Oh yeah,
you know? They're keeping the secrecy around it a little bit and just letting you know that, yes, the company that made these games that you are renowned, like you said, like, compared to being pieces of art.
yeah.
This is our next game. Uh,
And it came out, and once again, it came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere, no one really knew about it ahead of time. They kinda kept the covers over it until they finally revealed it, but yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see more about that game. Shadow of the Colossus is a fun ass time to me. The other 2 I haven't played, but I know they're there to
Yeah,
play eventually. I see what's the Last Guardian was the 3rd one, like, that one's ready to download at any time and play whenever on the PlayStation Plus store or whatever,
yeah.
but, yeah, so, I mean, I'm
I'm intrigued.
interested. I'm intrigued, yes,
I'm intrigued.
that's the word I'm looking for.
The other thing that intrigued me was how many returns of old franchises we got. That once again, the whole like theme of this show was out of nowhere. Like,
Mhm.
all of these announcements no one was expecting unless you
Yeah.
already knew. You were in the industry and you knew. And the fact that they announced, and I was watching a React video when they were making these announcements, and even the people who were kind of semi in the industry were like, "This looks like this, but it can't be that." And they're like, "What if it was?" And then all of a sudden they
And
would
then it
announce it, and they're like, "Holy shit."
and then
And
it is.
it actually was. And it was really funny how it was working out. But one of them was Turok. We're getting a new Turok the Dinosaur Hunter game,
Mhm.
which is wild.
A game that originally what came out on N64 that's like
In
a
'96 when we
right? Yeah.
but a new Turok game, don't know anything about it. They just showed a couple little cinematics, whatever. A new Virtua Fighter. So Virtua Fighter's been out for a while. I think the last Virtua Fighter game I played was on PS2.
Mhm.
That's not to say they haven't made any since then, but I know I had Virtua Fighter Evolution on PS2, and that's probably
Yeah,
the last time I thought about that series.
I think I played maybe the 3rd one. I don't know. For a while, Virtual Fighter was like my preferred
Yeah.
like next gen fighter over Tekken, over Street Fighter. I was playing that over Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Like
We
Jackie
played
was my main.
Dude, you and I, we talk about going back and doing this. You and I played a shit ton of Virtual Fighter
Mhm. Yeah.
across multiple systems. We've played a lot of, and probably is one of our highest. Street Fighter's probably pretty close. We did put some time
Well,
into those,
Street
but
Fighter Street Fighter goes back a longer ways.
it's true. Yeah,
So,
Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat do kind of go, and I mean, I couldn't even imagine the hours that we put into Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
well, yeah, that's
That's
a
insane.
lot. A lot.
But bringing it back to Virtual Fighter, kind of there, and seeing the revival of the fighting game thing, which we once again want to be a part of.
Yeah,
Um,
we
these
try.
newest games have been good. I mean, what we played of Street Fighter 6 was good. What we played of
S
Tekken was good.
Mhm.
Mortal Kombat we didn't really jump into. Mortal Kombat 1, which seems to be almost being the floundering one, um,
Sure.
compared
But
to the other ones. But
this is like kind of a revival
yeah.
of fighting games, and Street Fighter 6 had me in a chokehold for a month or 2.
Hmm.
And then Tekken, what I played of it was fun too, and I plan to get back to that game,
Yep.
a lot of things started coming out and distracting me,
Yeah.
but, yeah, Virtual Fighter joining in this, being like my next gen fighting game preference when all those games were out, like, everyone was a Tekken kid. I was like, "I play Virtual Fighter," you
Yep.
know? So, yeah, I'm interested to see more of what they got coming with that.
So that I thought was cool. And then the one that really I never thought they would do, and this one pumps me up beyond all belief, was a new Onimusha game from Capcom.
Mhm.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I played all of those on PS2 multiple times,
Mhm.
and I even went and bought the when they kind of did the remaster of the original one on PS4 a couple years ago. I went and bought that. I was like, I want a new Onimusha game, so I'm gonna go give them my money. I'm not gonna wait. I know this game's gonna be $10 within a month, and it was. But I was like, I'm paying full price, whatever it was. It wasn't like it was 70, it was like 30 or something. But I played it and I brought it home and I pretty much almost beat it in like one. It's like a 5 hour game, so it's not. I'm pretty sure I sat there and I beat it in like one sitting. I
Sure.
love those games and the fact that they're making a new one. My only fear is that they're going to make it like a Soulsborne game and it's going to be really hard because they can't help themselves because they think that's what everyone wants. And I don't want that. Animusha was a samurai Resident Evil. And
Pretty much.
that's what I want. I want a game that's like the Resident Evil remakes, but it's samurai, demons, and
Mhm.
that same type of like puzzling. And I want that. If they deliver that, oh my God.
Yeah. And
I'm so excited for that.
I couldn't tell if this was a new game or a remake of a game.
It gave it a subtitle that wasn't one of the original subtitles. So
Okay.
as far and it's a new character because they can't get that whole series because it was when video games were starting in PS2 era where they could actually bring in actors and they can actually make people look like themselves. Like
Mhm.
Jean Reno was in The Professional was in Omnimusha 3.
I remember.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And the main actor who played Samsuke, the main character, there was a whole thing where he didn't want to do there's like a whole rights litigation. So they've never been able to re-release those games because they've never been able to get the rights of his image. So that's part of the reason why they've struggled to really make any more or do anything. So this is a completely new character. So unless they're just kind of throwing in a new character, I feel like this is a new game, and holy
Okay.
shit, that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
unless
Well,
I start hearing Soulsborne on that, and even then, I don't even know if that's going to stop it from me
I
buying it.
yeah, this is just a franchise that I never really considered seeing again.
No,
I didn't think they were gonna go and do this series anymore.
it ultimately skipped PS3 and PS4. It's been like 20 years since we've
Yeah,
actually gotten, especially a new one. But that was
yeah,
all that whole series lived on the PS two. They made four
mhm,
games and a fighting game,
yeah,
and it all
yeah,
was on PS2. And it never left outside of that remake last couple years ago on PS4. It's been gone. So
yeah.
this was wild. This was wild to me.
No, the way you described it is accurate. Like, who can't be excited about like samurai feudal Japan fighting against undead zombie demons? Like,
Yeah.
that's just fun.
And it was
So,
always set up in the Resident Evil style, where
mhm,
you ran around. It was kind of like you had the little dungeon, you ran around the area, you found little things to solve little puzzles. You just had a sword instead of a gun, and it was awesome.
yeah,
Loved that. That was one of my favorite series on PS2. So the fact that they brought it back is insane to me. So
bring it.
love it, love it. And then the last big announcement they closed the show off was Intergalactic, a new game and a new IP by Naughty Dog. And I was ready to pre-order this game halfway through this trailer.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
put on that record of the Pet Shop Boys, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're doing
We're
this.
doing this. We're doing
Uh,
this.
Naughty Dog. Yeah. One of the sometimes it's just a studio makes a game and just their name alone is like, ah, yeah, I'm in.
Yep.
Naughty Dog's one of them, I think, for my love of The Last of Us and even Uncharted and going back to,
Crash
I mean,
Bandicoot.
they made Crash Bandicoot and Jack and Daxter, and this is their fifth franchise, literally only their fifth franchise, because that's how committed they are to their things and put so much work and love into it. Like, I think the main guy, I can't think of his name right
Neil
now.
Druckmann.
Neil Druckmann had a tweet that was like, "We've been working on this game for 4 years. Here's the first look at it."
That's
Um,
exciting because that means that they're in the home stretch, hopefully.
right. So maybe 2020, late 2025, 2026, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Um, but yeah, I'm in. I mean, dude, it's a Naughty Dog game based in space, like a sci-fi kind of thing. Um, what's not to like about it? Again, it's just another cinematic trailers. There's not gameplay yet. But dude, just playing those
It's
that
got
companies.
Camille in it.
Yeah, playing exactly. You're just talking about, like, Hollywood actors being in games, like, just seeing Kumail's face pop up, like,
I saw him sitting
hilarious.
up there. I was like, and I didn't think they were going to zoom in on it like they did, and I was just like,
Yeah.
is anybody else seeing him up there?
Kumail Nanjiani, he's in this game. Like, come
And
on,
that main girl was in The Last of Us. She was in Last of Us 2, the game.
Mhm.
She was
Same actress?
same actress was in The Last of Us 2. She played one of the I can't remember who she was. I can't remember the character's name. She played one of like the tribes people or something
Okay.
in the things. She was
Somebody on Abby's side?
I believe so. I believe so.
Okay.
Or in the tribe people, like you had that one people that were out. I don't whatever. Someone on Abby's
Okay.
side, someone in there. She was in there. I can't remember off the top of my head. I just heard it in passing when I was like watching some stuff. The cool, intriguing part about this game was that this game takes place in 1986. So it
Okay.
takes place in a 1986 in which technology has gone that far where we can have intergalactic space travel in
Yeah.
1986. So it's not like we're going to the future. We're technically, so that's why all the technology looked dated and
Mhm.
they were playing 7-inch records and stuff like and cassettes. I was just like, okay, that's a cool vibe. Like, yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy has an 80s vibe, but it's still very futuristic. But here they're
Mm.
like, no, it is 1986.
Yeah.
I
No,
thought that
that's
was a cool idea.
no, that is cool. It's different. So yeah, I'm totally in on this, and of course, like, this announcement and trailer got met with a lot of hate from the anti-wokers
I
because they don't want to play as a lady.
well, I
Or
figured that was coming, but
a lot of people are also just like hold a grudge against Naughty Dog as a studio because they don't like the way that The Last of Us 2 played out. Um, I say to those people, leave it alone then. Don't play it. Leave it for us. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like, I'm gonna enjoy this game for exactly the same reasons why any smart person would, because it looks amazing. They make amazing games, and
We've been playing as female characters for 40, 50 years.
you
Like,
just
who
talked
the
you
fuck
just
cares?
talked about Tomb Raider that we were playing in the 90s, and like no one cared about playing Lara Croft back then,
We're
but now
playing
all of a sudden,
Metroid on Super Nintendo. Super Metroid
right?
goes down as one of the greatest games. You were playing a lady in that, and you knew it was a woman.
But I can't tell, Chris, because she's wearing a mask.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, no, it's the most ridiculous thing. But
Yeah.
yes, I did think that when I saw the show open with Witcher 4 saying, "Hey, you're going to play the girl." And then it
Mhm.
ended with Intergalactic that said, "Hey, you're going to play the girl." And I was like, "Oh, great. I'm sure there's all kinds of could be healthy conversations around that."
Yeah, all the cis idiots like, no, I want to be a dude. It's stupid.
Unless they have huge breasts. If
Right.
she's not hot, I don't want to be her. Remember that around Returnal, the girl was too ugly.
Yeah.
So stupid.
People are idiots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the thing that made me feel better about humanity was that Astrobot won Game of the
Woo!
Year. It beat Elden Ring.
Yeah, it did.
Astrobot was
Unexpectedly.
amazing, and I was not expecting a platformer to win Game of the Year over Final Fantasy Rebirth or Elden Ring.
Or Wukong or Metaphor or Refantasio, like all these epic, big, huge
Good
games.
games.
And then you got this little platformer, this little, 5, 6 hour platformer if you're going through it, one game of the year. Like, wow. But if you played Astrobot, you can understand why. That game was so fun
Yeah.
and just so like such a shot of adrenaline inducing entertainment
Yeah.
every time you played that game. It's like the design was perfect, the mechanics of the game were just like classic
The
platformer.
creativity.
Yeah, oh my god, just like a perfect platformer. So like I'm not mad about this. I think it's well deserved. That team who made that game totally deserves this recognition.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, so Astrobot, man. Hell of
It's
a
wild.
game.
I
It
figured it. I mean, I figured between Elden Ring. See, I think Elden Ring got screwed. Not screwed, but I think Elden Ring suffered from the fact that so many people didn't know if it should even be nominated because it was technically a DLC.
Right.
So I think that there were a lot of people that felt that they shouldn't even vote for it because it was a DLC. So I think that hurt it. Final Fantasy, I mean, that was kind of seemed like the front runner all year. And once again, we've talked here that we for being lifelong Final Fantasy fans, that one really didn't hit for either of us as
It
much as
didn't
we
it
wanted it
didn't
to.
it didn't meet our expectations at the end of the day.
Uh,
I had fun playing it at some points, but like as a whole, no.
and I haven't gone back. So
Right.
I put in my 40 hours and I've struggled to go back to try to push through to finish it. So,
Yeah.
um, but still, how it's been like gloriously praised pretty much this entire year.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that Astrobot kind of came out in September and was like, "Hi,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you," and it did, and that was awesome. So that was a nice little surprise. And Astrobot was awesome, and probably looking back would probably be my game of the year too. And like I said, I'm playing Metaphor now, and it's awesome. And I played a whole bunch of fun games this year, but none of them I've sat there and played with a smile on my face where I've just had straight up joy.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely enjoyed playing Astrobot more than I've enjoyed
Even
playing a game in a long time.
even at the times when it got super hard and felt like a Souls game,
Yeah,
and you were trying to do like things and it was super frustrating and spending an hour plus trying to beat
on one
one
map.
one speed map. But yeah, just so much fun and like ready to be replayed again at some point, I'm sure. Um, so we both agree we're happy for Astrobot.
Yeah,
Now, real quick before we finish this conversation,
yeah.
I want to go back on this. I have a list here of all the Game of the Year winners, dating back to I think they started in 2014. So I'm just gonna run through these real quick. You just tell me what, without thinking, favorite game off this list.
Okay.
All right. 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition. 2015, The Witcher 3. 2016, Overwatch, somehow. 2017, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. 2018, God of War. 2019, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. 2020, The Last of Us Part 2, 2021, It Takes Two, 2022, Elden Ring, 2023, Baldur's Gate 3, and then, of course, 2024, Astrobot. That's your last 10 years of Game of the Years. What's the best game in that list?
God of War.
You didn't even hesitate.
As soon as you said it, I was like, yeah. And then you kept saying it. The only one that made me twinge was Last of Us. Last of Us 2.
Mhm.
Um, but God of War,
Yeah.
I mean that remake, like just the idea of the story that they told, the way that they put that together. I mean that game was outstanding, and
Mhm.
especially as someone who played all of the other God of War games through his Olympus saga multiple times, and
Mhm.
just loved that series for since it came out on PS2, and never thinking we were gonna get another one. And then for what they decided to do with old man Kratos, and gave him Atreus, and then just the things that they were able to do on the PS4. And like there were moments in that game where I stood up while I was playing cheering. Like when you get towards the end of that game and you're fighting giant dragons and like you're just fucking walloping these dudes. Like there were
Mhm.
moments that were so epic in that I literally cheered while I was playing that game. Like
Yep.
that
Yeah.
game's outstanding. I
No.
still want to go back and play it again, that they've done like the 60 frame rate per second, or the whatever, all the
Upgrade.
upgrades they've done to it, just to kind of like get it closer to Ragnarok, which was an outstanding game. But yeah, that God of War was insane.
Ooh, I think you just convinced me. I think I agree because I was gonna go Last of Us 2 also, and it's by a razor thin margin, I think, because I loved that game. But yeah, it's probably God of War,
I
and
don't know. There's just
the
something extra about God of War. Last of Us 2 is a great, like I said, it's an amazing game. I loved that game, and once again, we have things to say for people who hated it for stupid reasons, but it just, I don't know, something about it with just God of War. Maybe it's just because Last of Us 2 was a heavy game, so it just wasn't as fun in a
yeah,
traditional sense. Like you're not necessarily, there's a lot of dread as you're playing that game, but
yeah,
it did evoke a lot of emotions, and I could probably talk myself into, if we wanted to do a deeper dive into that game,
sure.
I could probably convince myself that that might be it. But yeah, God of War would be my off the cuff.
I think so too. And like Ragnarok, almost to me was a game of the year. Also, like it was just as good as the first one. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's the year Elden Ring won, so it was a lot of course. But
discourse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think we probably agree. God of War out of
Yeah,
that 10
I
year
mean, there's a
list.
lot of them I've never played, so I can't speak to all of
Out of
them.
the ones we played, I probably play about half of them.
Yeah, I
So
would say
yeah.
about half would probably be accurate. So
Mhm.
what threw me off was that It Takes Two. I forgot that It Takes Two, which was I think free now on PS Plus.
Mhm.
I forgot that that was Game of the Year. That's a wild one too. That's another little Astrobot platformer.
Yeah, we're gonna have to download it.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to give that a shot. The thing that amazes me about video games is how long they take to make,
Mhm.
and how many hours and how much focus you have to play a video game. And
Mhm.
then it kind of almost reminds, when we're trying to do this podcast, of just the creativity side. It takes a lot out of you. And
Yeah.
we sit here recording and editing and marketing and doing all of this stuff. And do you know how we do it? We do it with our little friend called Magic Mind.
It's
Uh,
true.
it just helps with that, those long hours of creating. And I'm sure a lot of these video game developers out there have their Magic Mind, the little mini fridges on their desk, when they're putting in 12 or 14-hour days, just as we do while we're podcasting and doing our editing and doing all the things, when we just need time to focus on our content. It's been super impactful for us, man, since we've been doing this with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and the convenience of it, I think, is a definite plus. Like I can sit there and make my coffee, but then I gotta brew it and drink it, and some coffee's hot, and sometimes it doesn't taste right. And you don't want those energy drinks, man, that are just like full of sugar and just full of all that stuff. This Magic Mind is just like a little shot. You just put your head back and take that thing down, and it gives you the same energy that you would get from those other things, and it's super easy and it tastes good. And I just got my new shipment here the other day, so I got a fresh batch ready to go.
When you get
Uh,
excited when it shows up in the mail.
Oh man, and you open it up and you unfold all the things and you've seen it already now a bunch of times, but it's like, ooh, it looks fresh and new and a new batch and it's super green and yeah, man, I'm a big fan and definitely gives me that energy I'm looking for to get through this kind of stuff.
Yeah, without crashing and focusing. We did it the other
Hmm.
last week when we were trying to record, and I was like, and I couldn't talk, and I was like, I'm down in this shot,
Yeah.
down the shot.
Mhm.
Next thing you know, about 20 minutes into this episode, I was just like talking eloquently. I was super focused. So
My
it's
superpower.
superpower. So if you find yourself out there, and especially if you are trying to create podcasts, if you're writing books, if you're just working, you got long 12-hour shifts, looking for that focus, looking for something that can pick you up and help. And like I said, energy drinks make you feel energized, but it doesn't make you focus.
Yep.
Coffee can make you jittery, and you can't, or you get lightheaded. I get lightheaded from coffee sometimes. This one, you just take it, man, and you're just kind of good for the day. And
Yeah, you're
if you
good to
keep,
go.
and you pile it up like every other day or every day, it like compounds to where
Mhm.
it's like you feel more focused easier, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you want to feel this way, you want to feel like we do because we feel pretty good. Our
That's-
productivity hack is Magic Mind. If you go over to magicmind.com/raised a geek, you can use our code raised a geek 20 and you can get 20% off your Magic Mind order, subscription, or one time. So definitely check that out. Once again, that's magicmind.com/raised a geek. You can use the code raised a geek 20 for 20% off. So make sure you check that out while this offer is still good.
You know you want to, so just do it.
You know what I want to do, Don? I
What's
want to
that?
talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 2
Zoom.
because we talked about Sonic 1 last week, and
We
Sonic
did.
3 comes out this upcoming week, next week.
It does, right?
Comes out in like 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have to go to the theater to see the Sonic 3.
Sonic 2 convinced you, huh?
You know what? I watched Sonic 2
Uh-huh.
when it hit Paramount after it was in theaters. I didn't go see Sonic 2 in theaters for whatever reason. I don't know.
Okay.
And I put it on, but I don't think I actually watched it. Like I remembered parts, but this time I sat down and watched this movie
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed it.
Uh-huh.
I can't necessarily say, and we'll obviously you're going to dive into it here in about 30 seconds, but can't necessarily say if I enjoyed it more than the first one. I really do have a soft spot for the first one for whatever reason, but did they did a sequel justice, and I'm excited to talk about it with you, man.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to talk about it too. Again, if you listened to our episode last week, I was a first-time viewer of Sonic 1, so obviously I'm a first-time viewer now of Sonic 2, just dipping my toe or jumping full head on, I guess you want to say, into the
Yep.
pool of Sonic. And yeah, man, I really like this movie, but let's figure out why.
Yeah, yeah. So this sequel for Sonic 2 ramps up the stakes as Sonic faces off against the returning Dr. Robotnik, now teaming up with the formidable Knuckles in a quest for the legendary Master Emerald. With the help of his new friend Tails, Sonic embarks on an epic adventure spanning Siberian mountains, underwater temples, and even a chaotic Hawaiian wedding. Halloween
Hey,
wedding.
Hawaiian.
Hawaiian wedding. Packed with heart, humor, and an unforgettable showdown featuring Supersonic, Sonic 2 left us speeding towards an exciting future for this beloved franchise.
Mhm.
Now, like you said, I this was kind of almost my first time really sitting and watching this movie, and yeah, I really really enjoyed it as we could tell. I didn't really know because, like I said, I watched it but only had it on, so I didn't really watch it. So I had a very negative idea of this movie in my head. So I was kind of like, I have a feeling Don's not going to like this one. So then when you told me, you sent me that text and you were like, these movies have no right being this good. And as I was like halfway through watching it when you sent that text, and I was like, okay, he's feeling the same thing I'm feeling here.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I sequels to movies like this, like blockbuster family, just like, don't have to think too hard sequels have a reputation and tradition of not being as good as the first. Um and sometimes a lot worse than the first. Just because, like, I don't know, the creators dial it in, it just becomes like a cash grab, knowing that the first one was so successful, they're gonna come see this anyway. We don't have to work that hard on this movie. Um, but no, not in this case, man. It was just it's I agree with you. Maybe it's not as good as the first one. That's fine because it almost stands shoulder to shoulder with it, just being like a continuation of the fun. Like the writing was still there, the heart was still there, um the action, like the fun, just like
They
video
ramped up the
games.
action.
The video game style action is still there. You still got plenty of like the family good time feel that you had in the first one with him and the human characters. But then also, oh my God, you're adding in Tails and Knuckles. like and you think that might be a detriment to this movie, like, there's too many CGI characters, but they did it in a way where it's like this just feels right. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Tails and Sonic sharing an adventure just feels right. It's the natural progression of Sonic. Sonic 1 was just Sonic. Sonic 2, the video game, you got Tails as part of the adventure. So now Tails is part of the adventure. We're gonna
Sonic 3,
speed
you added Knuckles.
Yeah, we're gonna speed it along a little bit and let's add Knuckles into this. And he's kind of a rival at first, but then he's also a good guy. He's kind of like an anti-hero. He's like the bad boy, and like you had all that in this movie, and they all played well off each other. And like, I don't know, man, just sitting here watching this, there was times where I sat forward, like, and when you have to focus on things like a
Yeah.
video game or a movie, and I'm just like, oh shit, what? Knuckles and Sonic are punching each other in the air. I gotta pay attention, like.
Yeah, yeah,
uh
you get invested. That underwater temple where they start fighting and Knuckles is throwing those punches and Sonic is just like "Doot, doot, doot," and just dodging them all. I was like,
I was just like,
oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But no,
How
man.
cool was it? Like, to your point, every time they showed like Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in their bright colors on the
Yes.
screen at the same time, it looked so good.
Yeah, like towards the
Like,
end of this movie where they all stood and like it's the hero stance and
yeah,
Sonic's in the middle and Knuckles and Tails are on his side.
with their
I was
bright
like,
colors.
that's amazing. This is like rivaling the Avengers circle in the first Avengers. Just like Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails taking on Dr. Robotnik. Let's go.
Get
Uh
out of here. Yeah.
but
Yeah, it was wild. Now this one obviously leaned a lot heavier into the game lore a little bit. We brought in the emeralds, the chaos crystals, the portals that apparently everyone
Mhm.
has access to these rings to throw portals around. Did was it somewhere in the beginning of this movie? Was it weird to you when Sonic was just like using rings to send people to Hawaii? I was like, don't you have a limited amount of those?
All right. You should yeah, don't yeah, yeah. A little bit, a little
Like
bit.
he's using these rings and he's like, let's go to Hawaii. And I was like, it's always funny when people like use powers that should be limited, but they're going to use
Mhm.
them just for a joke.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I got a little worried in that when that started happening because I thought that that was their way of kind of taking James Marsden out of this movie
Yeah.
and him and his wife, obviously, who played a big part in this movie too. But I thought that was their way of taking them out of this film. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks because the first movie, what made it so good was their Sonic being from a different world and being basically like an alien interacting with human characters. So that kind of bummed me out that they were doing that. But then obviously sit long enough that it comes back and you
They
get
still had a
that.
pretty large part in this movie.
No, yeah, they definitely did. But at the beginning, that's what my worry was
It
like,
looks that way.
this is just gonna be Sonic and Tails. You know what I mean? Which isn't bad, but I was like, like the charm of the first movie was him interacting with people. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. The ring
It
usage.
just was, it was just funny. It was just funny to me. It
Yeah.
did lead to one of my favorite parts of this movie, which was an Easter egg there.
Mhm.
And I'm going to explain it just because I enjoyed it so much. But it was when Sonic is sitting on that couch talking to the dog, telling him to pick a movie to watch, and he says, "But we're not watching Snow Dogs because that movie is the worst." And he sings, and that is from Parks and Recreation.
Is it?
Yeah, because Ben Schwartz, who voiced Sonic, was a character on Parks and Rec named John Ralphio, and he
Uh-huh.
always used to sing like that, and he would go worst. I can't
Uh-huh.
hit the notes like he can. And when I heard that, I just died laughing that they let him do that for that movie. Like they were like, "Hey, do the John Ralphio thing real quick,"
That is funny.
and that cracked me up when I saw it. I was like, "That is so good that they put that in this movie."
Yeah,
So that was just amazing.
not only doing Easter eggs to old games, but like now we're doing an Easter egg to the voice actor.
Yeah. As a
Yeah.
voice actor, and it fit so perfectly for Sonic. So,
Mhm.
like, because Sonic and John Ralphio on Parks and Rec are eerily similar in many
Sure.
ways. So like when they casted him, I was like, John Ralphio is going to be Sonic. Yes, please. Like, I'm fine with that. So,
And he's
just a
the
quick shout
perfect
out.
he's the perfect Sonic too,
No, he
voice.
is. He is.
Like he's done a wonderful job in
Hmm.
these two movies. I think uh we added Idris Elba as the voice actor for Knuckles here, which was kind of fitting. And it's just funny because he's like a British guy and he always does like American accents in his movie, but he's doing another American accent for Knuckles.
Hmm.
But you could hear him and he was, I think, a good casting.
Yeah.
Um couldn't can't specify who the Tails voice actress was. I know it was a woman.
Colleen O'Shaughnessy.
Sure.
I don't know
And
who she is.
through a lot of this movie until somebody called him a little boy, I was like, wait a minute, is Tails a girl or a boy? It's hard to
Did
tell.
they
Like
call him a little boy?
they did say boy at some I think
Okay.
James Marsden's wife at some point referred to him as a boy.
Okay.
But I was like, Tails could be either one. I don't know.
Yeah,
you
I had
never
no
they
idea.
never specified if he's a little boy or a little girl.
Yeah,
Uh
at one point, the tension between Sonic and Tails when they were in Siberia got a little close when they were by the fire, and I was like, "What's about to
are they
happen
gonna
here?
are they gonna make out?
Are they gonna make out?" But instead, the old lady curled up with Sonic.
Yeah, that was funny.
Um, stupid movie. Um, but yeah, and once again, we brought back Jim Carrey from the Mushroom Kingdom, Mushroom Planet, and he just chewed up the scenery, man. And what was funny with this movie was I don't think he acted with anybody. Like it felt like all of his scenes, he was either with like CGI robots or he was with CGI Knuckles, and he was just like chewing up the scenery, talking to nobody.
The only other time was like him and Stone, like his
Yeah.
assistant. He had scenes with him. But yeah, he's gotten used to now this CGI, working with CGI, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Like he probably enjoys doing these movies because he probably does them in a weekend in a studio in front of a green screen.
right. No, he's the perfect Robotnik, and
He is.
he proved it in the first one, and just more of it in this one. I didn't laugh as much at his like he didn't have as much like funny jokes as he did in the first one, but still just like on brand, same feel. Uh, got him closer to the look. Obviously, they showed it at the end of part one, but now
Yep.
he has the big, funny, fluffy mustache. Uh, yeah, I mean, he was great in this. I'm glad he's back for part three. Also, again, uh,
I mean, he'll come
we,
back. He'll sounds like he's not. He's gonna keep coming back for Sonic movies as long as they want to make them, and that's all he's gonna do. So
yeah, yeah. I saw a thing with him, some interview, and they were like, if you could come back as any character that you've played and do it again, what would you do? And he said he would do another Grinch. So it's like he wants to do Grinch, he wants to do Robotnik. He doesn't want to be in like the other shit, but like, oh yeah, all those weird movies where I gotta like dress up and play this like specific character. I'll do those kind of things.
interesting.
Yeah,
But he just doesn't want to, yeah, be a man.
he doesn't want to be a man. He wants to be a character. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it'd be more fun to do that or hide behind some of the prosthetics and hide behind the character. And
Hmm.
like I said, he's being an arch villain. I mean, Dr. Robotnik's a huge deal. You know, Eggman is like
Yeah.
from our childhood, is from a lot of people. It's
I
awesome.
was I was talking to my nephew about this movie because I'm probably gonna go see part three with him and my sister, and maybe you if you want to come in December. We'll figure out a day. But I was talking to him about like the characters in the movie. He's like, yeah, Dr. Robotnik. And so the 5-year-old's like, who's Robotnik? And I was like, the bad guy. You know, he's like, you mean Eggman? I was like, yeah, Eggman. But then I started thinking, like, in the video games, did they ever call him Eggman or Robot? Like, what was it? Is his name both things in the video game? I remember, like, because I remember hearing Dr. Eggman. You know what I mean? Like, that is something in my brain. Is that like a
I d- I don't
fake
know.
memory
I
I
don't know at
have?
what point Sonic started talking. I'm sure
Yeah.
whenever he started talking, he probably called him Dr. Eggman.
And it's like an insult to him. Like, all
Yeah.
your robots look like eggs. You're fat. You ride around in whatever. You're Dr. Eggman.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't tell you. I'm not up enough with my Sonic
I didn't know if it
lore.
was like a. I didn't know if it was like a Bowser King Koopa thing. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, through our life is he's had those two names. Like, he sometimes he's King Koopa, sometimes he's Bowser, It's like is Dr. Robotnik sometimes Robotnik, sometimes Eggman. I don't know. We weren't big Sonic players growing up, like you said,
Right.
but it's funny. It's I don't know. Jim Carrey did his thing again, which was highly enjoyable.
It said Dr. Robotnik became known
Mhm.
as Dr. Eggman in 1999 with the release of Sonic Adventure, and he was
Mm,
referred to as both names in the English version of that game. So
got it.
that seems to be the first time where he was being called that in '99.
Okay. So they're playing with that idea a little bit. He's got two names, and in the movie, Sonic uses it as an insult.
Yeah.
Um, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, and there's Reddit feeds. I'm confused. When is he called Eggman and when is he called Robotnik?
Yeah.
um,
Uh,
yeah, Sonic Adventure 98, 99 was when they started really calling him more just Eggman. So I guess in more current games, he's called Eggman. I'd once again, my Sonic lore and understanding once Sonic went multi-plat
sure.
is a little lost. I've dabbled with 3D
Hmm.
Sonic, but not too much more.
Yeah.
One of the parts I loved that they did as a quick callback when we're talking about like leaning heavier into game lore and the crystals and these new characters was that Sonic can't swim. And when he was
Mm-hmm.
under the water trying to swim and he kept jumping, which I've died a lot in Sonic 2 trying to swim, but I did love that he was able to grab the little bubble, get air. I
Yeah.
remember doing
Yeah.
that all the time in those games. Like, oh, there's a bubble.
Yeah. When he had to run across that huge span of ocean, he was very worried about it to start like, yeah, Sonic and water don't mix.
Yeah, so
So that was cool.
that was cool. That was cool. Now we started up this movie with the Sonic Vigilante mission, and we were right there when he was racing through the ambulance in Seattle, and he
Mhm.
was throwing bombs around, and he was trying to save the guy who kept telling him he was a bad superhero.
Yeah, yeah.
So they brought us right back into the action and ready to go.
They did. They did. It's kind of like just kind of full bore. Let's go into Sonic 2. And, you know, at the end of part one, you had Tails coming in. That was like the stinger at the end of part one. And Tails doesn't take long to show himself in this movie. And it's just a natural progression to add Tails, is it not? Like Tails and Sonic are just intertwined. And like I kind of talked about, Knuckles finds his way into this movie too. He's introduced pretty early on. Uh, do you like both these characters in this movie, like
100%.
their additions? Yeah.
Now, when I'd first watched it, I will say, because I only kind of watched it cursory, I just kind of, it was on while I was doing other things. I felt like it was too CGI. It was just all CGI characters. I felt like they didn't use the humans as much as they ended up that they did. But I felt
Okay.
like everything I saw was just CGI, 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 and I felt like it took something away from it. Rewatching it, that is not the case. And I enjoyed all of those characters more. Knuckles made me laugh with his Drax like kind of, they really leaned heavy into the Drax with Knuckles of just being, I'm gonna
Mhm.
take everything at face value,
Literal, yeah.
literal, and be very like that. But he still had heart, and he still, you could tell that he was still trying to understand. They tied it back to Longclaw. They brought the owl back. I think the owl got more screen time in this movie than it did in the first one.
Yeah.
And but see, I really enjoyed the inclusion, and it was just such a great thing. And then when they brought it back to the heart thing, like you talked about with Sonic needing his crew, like Sonic wants his friends and Sonic needs some friends and he needs some, he needs his tribe. And then you're like, "Oh yeah, Sonic's got friends now." That was the whole thing in the first one is he didn't have friends.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first one, he has family, but in this movie, he got friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he fully, like, completed that circle of, I have the guy and the lady who are, like, my
My
mom and
mom and
dad
dad.
figures, but I don't have a tribe, people, and even James Marsden's characters mentioned that a little while when he was looking at, the groomsmen and all those buff who ended up being FBI agents, like, yeah, they're a tribe. Like Sonic doesn't have that. Sonic doesn't have any friends. I hope he can make some at some point. And this movie he did.
What's funny was they're like James Marsden's trying to like look at all those ripped dudes, but then he flexes and he's fucking jacked too.
Oh
I'm
my
just
god.
like,
I thought that was hilarious. They're like trying to make him just be like the nerd or
yeah,
whatever. And like, yeah, all these dudes with shirts off and their abs and their sculpted whatever. And then Marsden did it as a joke, was like, dude, you're ripped too. What are
yeah.
you?
Those
What
his
are you?
arms were huge. I was like, yeah, that
Right.
doesn't quite work. I understand they kept your shirt on so we don't see that you're shredded, but
Right. Take your shirt off, be like one of them.
yeah, he could. He could.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. But yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we can't talk about this movie and not talk about the interludes that this movie had. We had an
mm,
entire scene in Siberia in a cabin that turned into a dance battle.
mhm. Where Sonic and Tails didn't know how to dance, but then all of a sudden they did when the song was different.
Yeah, they put on Bruno Mars. They can
And
dance
all
to
of a
Bruno
sudden,
Mars. They can't dance to Siberian music.
no, 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 no,
They
no.
can dance to Bruno Mars.
It has to be Bruno Mars.
Yeah, then even Sonic at one point he's like, "Just follow me," and they started doing a very complicated dance.
And Tails knew exactly what to
He
do.
Sonic did or Tails did what he was told. He did
Yeah.
exactly what he needed to do, but it was intense.
Yeah.
Um, but that was wild. I enjoyed that more than I thought I would the first time too.
Yeah, when they walked in that little cabin, they were so cute in their little their little like
The ski gear,
snow outfits. I was like, "Oh, those little cuties, look at them."
and everybody's just like ready to murder them.
Yeah. Throw them in the fire. Like, "No, they're cute."
Yeah, all of that this time was entertaining to me. I was okay with this interlude. Then they decided, hey, we're gonna throw another interlude at you and a whole side plot here where Maddie's sister Rachel is getting married to Shamar Moore.
Oh, he popped in
He
somehow.
just popped in somewhere and you're just like,
Love him.
okay. And they're in love and they're getting married, and that's why they were going to Hawaii earlier, because there's this wedding that James Marsden's gonna fuck up, because and you knew
Oh,
as soon as he like took that ring from the ring bear, you knew he switched those rings on accident.
yeah, because he's a fucking goofball. Like, of course he's gonna fuck it up.
And they're worried about that. And this is a whole side plot of this marriage and this wedding of Shamar Moore. And then
Yeah.
it turns out to be a catfish where Shamar Moore is an FBI agent who was just trying to get close to the family, and all of his friends are FBI agents, and the priest that was marrying them is an FBI. Like this was
Well,
intense.
oh, there was like 20, 25 minutes of movie here where like Sonic wasn't even in it.
Nope.
And it was just focused on this adventure now of Maddie and her sister Rachel like sneaking around and James Marsden like doing stuff too. But like
James
Sonic and
Marsden
Tails,
got arrested.
he got arrested. The sisters
Sonic
are
got captured.
the
Tails was
two
injured and got captured.
and the two sisters found like Tails weapons so they could take out the FBI agents. And I legitimately laughed at parts of this when like she threw that thing and it knocked them all out, and she was like, "I didn't mean to do that." And I was,
Dude, I'm looking for her right now. She was killing me. Rachel Natasha Rothwell.
yeah,
She
she
was
was
just
funny.
owning those scenes, and she was just like drinking that Mai Tai, and she could tell she was a bride scorned, and she was looking for her man to find out what was going on, and she was ready to kill him.
Yeah,
And like when they started playing Barracuda, and she tried to just run him down in a golf cart, and then she did the U-turn cart stepping out while it's still sliding into the wedding
right.
arch, and it explodes as she's walking in her gown to go get this guy.
Mhm.
And I was like, hell yeah. I was all that. I mean, that was one of the parts I sat up and I was like, this is awesome.
This this is good. Like
This is good. And it's not.
this subplot should be stupid, but I'm entertained by
Yeah,
it.
I was entertained. Like, yeah, I can't. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many other ways you could have introduced. You could have saved runtime. There's so many ways that you could have still had the FBI get involved. You did not need to have a catfishing scheme with the FBI in this family.
It was just a way to feature the human actors for a sequence, you
Yeah,
know.
and I was grateful for it. And the
Yeah.
humans got to do some stuff, and Sonic got to kind of have some downtime, and they were all entertaining. And I was here for all of that. All of the humans kept me entertained.
It also made it easy because the actress who plays Maddie is very easy on the eyes.
Of course.
Tika Sumpter. I was like, man, good job, James Marsden. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, just totally a fun sequence that I didn't expect to have as much fun with, but it worked somehow.
Yeah, it just did. Yeah, it was
And
funny, it was entertaining, and Shamar Moore knew what he had, and he was like, "I'm gonna," and I guess they kissed and made up, and they're really gonna get married. So
what a woman, or
what a
whatever he said.
woman as she was doing that. Then he took that tase for her, and
Yeah.
she was just like, "Yeah, you're too fine. I'm not gonna let you go."
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they I hope he's in Sonic 3. Hope he's part of the family.
We'll find out.
I'm excited to find out. I'm actively trying not to watch Sonic 3 trailers right now
Mhm.
because it's too
Yeah.
close to the movie coming out, and I don't feel like I need to look at any of thing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to actively not. My first instinct when I finished Sonic 2 last night was to put on the trailer for Sonic 3 and see what's
Mhm.
coming, but I was like, I don't need to do that. The movie comes out in like 6 days.
Yeah, you'll make it. Kinda go in fresh, right?
Yeah, I'd like to go in fresh and not, I don't remember. I know I watched the trailer and said, "Man, that looks good." I need to
Yeah.
watch Sonic 2 again. So I'm
Somebody
here.
somebody shared a picture the other day though that I did see that was like amazing. They're like, "This is amazing," where it was from the Sonic premiere, and it was like Idris Elba, Jim Carrey, Ben Schwartz, and Keanu Reeves all standing there for like a promo picture. Like, what world would you have thought that these four would be standing here next to each other? But yeah, that's your cast for Sonic
That's
3.
wild.
I know.
The headlines I've seen have said that it's like the best one. The reviews have been the couple reviews that I've seen, just the
Mhm.
headlines I haven't read deep down, but those have been like the titles of like the best Sonic yet.
Sure.
So I'm kind of pumped for that.
What I find kinda interesting too is, they knew that they were gonna make a part 3 the same way they knew they were gonna make a part 2 when part 1 came out.
Or at
Because
least
like,
hoped. I think they hoped
well,
for a part 2.
they they filmed their scenes in part 1 with, like, the Knuckles, uh, ancestors or family,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Echindas, like, fighting the owl that they show again in this movie is like, "Okay, these were in part 1," you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We already had Knuckles' breed of people in the
Yeah,
first
you're
movie.
right, you're right.
And then at the end of that movie, Tails pops up. So I was like, okay, he's going to be in part 2. And then at the end of this movie, the last stinger is Shadow coming up out of, you know,
In
uh,
some warehouse.
in some warehouse in some vat, like ready to go. It's like they knew they were going to make part 3 and it was going to be a Shadow movie. So definitely excited for part 3 after watching this one. Like, this is just a damn good franchise. And I don't understand really how. Like, never in my wildest dreams did I expect it to be this entertaining to me. I thought they might be okay. These movies might be like, ah, yeah, Sonic movies. But like, no, I'm excited for part 3.
Kind of. They follow like a template, or they have, like you said, like you mentioned, they have heart, which helps, but they
Mhm.
also like level it out where they're family friendly, but they're not kiddie.
Sure.
So like yes, there's animated hedgehogs doing things, but like it's not done. There's sometimes you watch kiddie things and shit that you watch with your 5-year-old nephew where you just roll your eyes and you watch like iCarly and they're just like, "What are you doing? Whoa!"
Right, right,
Like doing
right.
random shit. Um,
There's enough entertainment in this for adults, though,
yeah.
too. You know,
And like I said, we had a whole wedding catfish. Do you think kids are sitting there like, "She got catfished"?
they don't understand.
They don't know what's happening.
Yeah,
Um, they're just waiting
there's
for the funny animals to come back. So it's like
sure,
they really spent a lot of time that I would imagine as a kid, you would be like, "Where's Sonic? Why am I
right.
watching these adults?"
Yeah, this lady in this wedding dress drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But
Yeah,
what the kids do understand is when you get to a giant Robotnik finale,
sure.
after Robotnik gets hold of the Master Emerald and
Mhm.
goes Super Saiyan
Yeah,
and fucking creates a giant robot out of cars
that was cool.
and just has a giant lifelike Robotnik mech
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he's controlling with his mind.
and then they come up with a plan to get it out of him, and it ends in Knuckles punching him punching it out of
Dude,
him.
I laughed so hard when Knuckles punched Jim Carrey
Yeah.
and a giant
Crystal
emerald
fella flew out.
flew out of his body. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome.
I
Which led us to Super Saiyan Sonic, which was cool. Like,
Yeah.
that's gotta be a game thing. I'm sure that was in
Yeah.
game. You can be
When I
that.
was reading through reviews on Letterboxd, there were people that were like, "Fucking Super Sonic is in this movie."
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's definitely a thing where you turn gold and go super. I like I said, I missed that Sonic game, so
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really know. But there were people talking about like cheering in theaters for it. So
I'm sure, yeah. They'll probably use that tactic again in part 3. I think when I was shopping for toys, I already think I saw a golden Sonic and a golden Shadow. Toys giving me the movie details.
They always do.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? But yeah, man, I enjoyed this movie. I mean, the snowboarding down the mountain scene was fun. Knuckles chasing him. The sinking temple scene was super fun. It felt like a Nickelodeon game show as they were running around this hidden temple.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Carrey running through a temple with Knuckles fighting
With
booby
a
traps like Indiana Jones.
right, that was fun.
That was cracking me up. Like man, I loved this movie. This movie was fun, and like I said, I'm super pumped for Sonic 3. And I was not expecting, even when we talked about doing Sonic 1 and 2, I thought our Sonic 1 one would be like, especially
Fun.
once you texted me, I was like, okay, Don's got Sonic 1, and I was really nervous about Sonic 2 just because of my previous experience and just because I felt like I didn't like it at first, but man,
No, it was good.
it was good.
Like I said, I sat up multiple times. I was engaged.
Yep.
I was laughing. I was cheering. Like when again, when Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails all stood up in the hero pose, I was literally like, "Yes, let's do this.
Yep.
Beat his ass."
They had a
Like,
plan. I knew what was going on. Yeah, but the humans are funny. Like I said, this is a great movie. I enjoyed this one, and I'm like you said, I'm genuinely excited for Sonic 3.
yeah,
And
that makes two of us.
most likely we'll go see it together in a week, and we will come back and talk about it when I get back into town.
That works for me.
Because I think that everyone wants to hear what we think about Sonic 3. Apparently, we'll find out.
We're a Sonic show right now, folks.
Yeah, so if you don't like that or want us to talk about something else, let us know. And you know how to do that. You hit us up on social media at Raised a Geek across all platforms. Subscribe, like, and follow us on all podcast platforms. And if you want to join the conversation, you can shoot us an email at raisedageek@gmail.com. But I think that's going to do it for us this week because we talked about a whole bunch of different things, but it was all video game adjacent, so it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raise the Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak.
It's going to totally be my ringtone here in the next little bit.